welcome back. After just 4 hours of debate, the House voted on Wednesday to impeach President Trump for a second time, charging him with incitement of insurrection. Speaker Nancy Pelosi is expected to send the article of impeachment to the Senate sometime this week. But according to my next guest, none of it matters because it is unconstitutional to hold a trial once the president has left office. Joining me right now is Alan Dershowitz. He is Harvard professor emeritus, who is also part of President Trump's impeachment defense team. He also has a wildly popular podcast, The Dersh Show. Also joining us is Glenn Greenwald, a free speech advocate and civil libertarian who in 2014 won a Pulitzer Prize for breaking Edward Snowden's story about the NSA surveilling private U.S. citizens under the Obama administration. Gentlemen, it's good to have you both. Thank you so much for joining us. Alan, let me kick it off with you. Your reaction to what we may see this upcoming week. It looks like that article of impeachment is going to the Senate, and Chuck Schumer is going to push it through a Senate trial on President Trump, who will have left office at that point.
It will be unconstitutional, but that probably won't bother the senators. The Constitution is very clear. The subject, the object, the purpose of impeachment is to remove a sitting president. And there are two precedents. One is very obvious. When President Nixon resigned in anticipation of being impeached and removed, there was no effort to impeach him after he left office. It was clear that the Senate had lost jurisdiction at that point. The proponents cite another precedent. In 1876, there was a failed effort to remove the Secretary of War. In an initial vote, the Senate voted in a close vote, that they did have jurisdiction to try somebody who had resigned. But then when it came to a vote on the merits, they lost because 27 or so senators voted that they did not have jurisdiction. Those senators were right. There is no jurisdiction. You cannot put Citizen Trump on trial. If you could do that, it would be a bill of attainder, number one, putting somebody on trial who was not a sitting president. And number two, the implications would be horrendous. It would mean that if the Republicans came up with a terrific candidate, say not Donald Trump, to run against President Biden in 2024, the Democrats could simply impeach him. If you can impeach anyone who is not a sitting president, there are no limits to the power of the Congress to try ordinary citizens. It is plainly unconstitutional, and the Senate should not proceed with this unconstitutional act.
Well, we will see, and it also will tell us a lot about what the priorities are of this incoming administration, that's for sure. I want to turn to the censorship that we are watching, all of us, that you both have remarked about quite often. Jack Dorsey has admitted that the censorship at Twitter will go far beyond just Donald Trump. Here is a tape where he admits that when he doesn't realize he's being taped. Watch this.
We are focused on one account right now, but this is going to be much bigger than just one account, and it's going to go on for much longer than just this day, this week, the next few weeks. It's going to go on beyond the inauguration.
Now, Twitter gave Fox News a statement about this, saying that this is not any different than what he has said in the past. Glenn, good morning to you. Thank you for being here. What is your reaction to Dorsey admitting that he's purging conservatives?
Well, I think there's clearly a pressure campaign underway, bizarrely led by journalists at many major media outlets who want to maintain their control over the dissemination of information and regard a free internet as a threat to that. If you go back and look at what Silicon Valley pioneers were saying with the advent of the internet, the reason they were so excited about it as an innovation was because it was going to be free and open internet. That was the motto: free of corporate control, free of stricture, free of dogma, the ability of human beings to communicate with one another without the need for corporate and government intervention. And what we're seeing now is the complete opposite of that. And it's really not being led by Silicon Valley. This obligation, which they would prefer not to have to exercise because they'd rather have as many people as possible on their platforms, is really being foisted upon them by a public and a Democratic Party and a bunch of liberal media outlets like the New York Times and CNN and NBC News, who demand over and over that they censor more and not less. And that doesn't mean that they have to capitulate to that pressure, which they are doing. But I think we have to realize that this isn't just some unilateral power grab by Silicon Valley. It's also being done by a lot of powerful institutions in conjunction with them.
Right, right.
Yeah, and it's not just the censorship, Alan. It's also Harvard faculty and students are trying to revoke Harvard graduates their certificates and their university credentials. You are a professor emeritus. We're going to get back to that when we come back. Let's take a break. Alan Dershowitz and Glenn Greenwald. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We are back with Alan Dershowitz and Glenn Greenwald. Alan, there is a campaign building at Harvard to rescind and revoke degrees of Trump officials and allies, including White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany and Senator Ted Cruz, as well as Dan Crenshaw.
Right.
Your reaction?
I will represent pro bono any Harvard graduate who has his or her degree rescinded based on politics. The great danger is that this is coming from our future leaders. You know, McCarthyism was a thing of the past that came from the right. This is coming from people on the left who are our future leaders. It has to be fought at every turn. We cannot allow free speech for me, but not for thee, which is what we're seeing at Harvard and other great institutions.
I mean, it's just terrible, Glenn. All anybody wants is truth. The president now is looking for further pardons. Do you think he should pardon Julian Assange, for example?
I think two people who have done more to expose the truth of the very agencies that Donald Trump says he has been victimized by and was victimized by, Edward Snowden and Julian Assange, are being persecuted by what he calls the deep state, the security state, and absolutely deserve a pardon. They've been punished and they've suffered for years now, and it's time for them to come home.
I think
What do you think
Assange
about
should
this
be
cancel
pardoned,
culture,
definitely.
Glenn, real quick? You too. You think so too,
I think
Alan?
that the way that you find truth is by coming on and debating people with whom you have great disagreements, like I have with Alan Dershowitz.
Yeah.
And now